Hey friends, this is Jay from the Okie Bookcast, and you're listening to the Surely You Can't Be Serious podcast with my fellow Okies, Jason and Dee.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Surely You Can't Be Serious podcast, where it is the middle of the night on the open road and the heater don't work and it's oh so cold. But don't go getting tired because you're looking kind of beat. The music that we're talking is going to knock you off your feet.
That is good.
We are here today to talk about one, the only Great White.
That's right. Carcharodon carcharius.
Okay.
Otherwise known as Great White.
Great White. Now, it will be interesting to talk about how they got their name, how it wasn't even really related to a shark at all. But we are comparing this album, Twice Shy, which is their fourth total album, with an album from The Cult called Sonic Temple.
These are both big albums from the summer of 1989. I mean, we're kind of riding the crest of hair metal. It's about to crash and burn.
Yep.
But these are some of the last big remnants, although a lot of people would say The Cult was never hair metal.
I would say the same thing about Great White. I think that Great White got lumped in with the hair metal, but in listening to their music, they're really more blues. They're like English rock blues than they are hair metal. It was just they're in that same time and they've got black leather pants on, right? But I mean, who wasn't wearing black leather pants in 1989?
No doubt, right?
I would put these guys more in a category with like Tesla and Black Crowes.
Cinderella
for sure.
Yeah.
Not
Poison. Yeah.
Not Motley Crue. Now, this is a really great pair of episodes for me because I told you whenever you suggested that we do these two albums, I'm like, I've never heard The Cult before. It went by me. I never heard a song, wasn't familiar with them, wasn't familiar with their music at all. And it's not much more for Great White. I mean, I knew who Great White was because Once Bitten, Twice Shy was all over the radio and all over MTV all of the time.
Right.
And I had this great experience as a new guitar player where I came across a video that Great White had done, like a very early MTV Unplugged show, and they did this cover of the Led Zeppelin song, Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You.
That is a fantastic performance and one of the very first MTV Unplugged TV shows.
Yeah.
I've got a great story on that. Let's hold that for a minute.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. All right, guys, for this episode, we have had a Patreon blast.
Thank you, everyone.
5 executive producers for this album, episode. Jason, who are our executive producers?
All right, so Carrie Ahern, who's been a Patreon member before, she's back with us.
Welcome back.
We love Carrie.
Welcome back.
So she's done it. Chris and Jeannie Alexander, they're back.
Welcome back, Chris and Jeannie. Jeannie helped us out.
She did Depeche Mode with us.
Oh, it was such a fun
album.
episode. Yeah, check that one out.
Okay, then we've got Dirk Smith, who's a new Patreon member. He's reached out to us on email.
Dirk, giving us some great intel on some stuff. I love it. Thank you for joining, Dirk. We're super happy to have you aboard.
That's it. Thanks, Dirk. And then Eugene Usau. I'm not sure I'm saying his last name right, but Eugene has been jumped in on Patreon. He's been great for us.
Thank you so much. Love to have you as part of the Patreon family, Eugene.
And then Chris Connell.
Yes, that one threw me a second. I was like, did Chris Cornell just join? He's not alive. Wait
Right.
No, Chris Connell. Yes, Chris Connell joined us. Chris, welcome to the Patreon family. We are so happy to have you. Guys, these are our executive producers. If you're interested in becoming an executive producer of one of our episodes, go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/ShirleyPodcast.
Thank you, Carrie, Chris, Jeannie, Eugene, and Chris.
Let's get into the album, get into these songs, and find out what these guys are all about.
Awesome. Okay, before we do, I've got just a couple of little background details for you on the album, okay? So this was their fourth album, like you said. This was released April 12th of 1989. Of course, the lead single is Once Bitten, Twice Shy. We're going to talk about that, and that owned that summer for me. It was just on the radio every fifth song. It went 2 times platinum, and the cover. I want to talk about the cover of this album for a second. Here's the cover, and I showed this to you a minute ago. You've got
2 bottom halves of ladies that are artfully wrapped in the most appropriate places with some red ribbon or satin sheets, if you will.
Red satin sheets. You've got a giant white dorsal fin going right through the middle of this bed.
Yes.
Okay. Notice they've got these little anklets that you get at Destin, on the beach, made of
Right.
shark teeth,
Right.
Which is really cool.
Side note, there have been like 2 major shark attacks within the last week.
There have been.
At the beach that I'm about to go to vacation on.
Yeah.
So it's a little concerning, but fortunately no deaths, but some really serious injuries.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm sorry. You're at the album, yes. The shark swimming through red satin sheets somehow.
All right. Do you know who these 2 wonderful bottom halves belong to?
No, I don't.
All right. One of them is Tracy Martinson.
That's the girl whose face was on Once Bitten.
That's right. And she was in the video for Rock Me. She's in the video for Save All Your Love.
Yeah.
2 songs that I absolutely think are bangers, which you're not familiar with. And I'm marking it down. I'm spiking the football. You will love those songs.
Okay.
So one of them is Tracy Martinson, girl from the Once Bitten album.
Yeah.
The second one
Uh-huh.
is Bobby Brown.
Shut up.
She's the
video.
cherry pie girl.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. And she's going to make an appearance we're going to talk about her in just a minute, a little more in depth. She's in the Once Bitten, Twice Shy video.
Be sure and go back and check out our top 5 songs of 1909 because I talk a little bit about touch on her. Anyway, sorry. Are we ready to jump in track by track now?
Let's jump in track by track.
Okay, song number 1 off of the album is a song called Move It.
We had it never seen. It's just your daddy's double talk. Oh yeah, baby, and it don't mean nothing to me. Let's move it. Time will stay so long. Let's move it. Let's get this.
Okay, I'm not sure why we start off with the sound of a bus taking off.
It's the beginning of a journey, right?
Right. Well, the intro to the song is such a slow burn. If you were arguing that these guys were hair metal, I'd say, okay, well, let's listen to the beginning of this song because this is not a hair metal way to start a song. This is a slow blues burn that builds and builds and builds until Mark Kendall's raging guitar comes blasting through your speakers.
So this is a great kickoff song, right?
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think this is like the start of a concert type of song where you've got the drummer, you can't quite see what's happening, the shadows and the lights are moving, the guys are beginning to take their place as you've got this beginning build. I love this song. I think this is a great beginning song. It's a good rocker. It's a great kickoff to the album.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got this incredible story that I've been waiting to discuss with you. You and I have talked a little bit off air about this, but
Oh, I'm excited to hear it. Let's go.
okay, so Great White started in 1977 or 8.
Yeah. So listening to Mark Kendall talk, it was 78. He said Wikipedia is wrong. It was not 77. He said, I met Jack Russell in 78. And I got the story on that if you want to know how they met. Or
Tell me,
whatever.
yeah.
Okay. So Mark Kendall, I mean, obviously a wicked good guitar player. Like he is underrated as far as guitar players go. You don't hear his name come up at all, but he is a phenomenal guitar player. Just take that Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You riff that he plays, and it's amazing. As a new guitarist, I was like, I want to learn how to play like that. I went to a guitar teacher and I said, can you teach me how to do what he's doing in this song? Because it's so incredible. But he was a guy who decided, 17 years old, he's walking along the beach, he's been learning how to play guitar, and he says to himself, I am giving myself only one option. I am going to make it as a guitarist, and that's it. There is no fallback plan. I will either be successful as a guitarist or I will be a bum. And those are my only options.
Okay, wow.
And so he starts a couple of bands, and by the time he's 20, he's playing some shows, but he's not super happy with the singer that he's got.
Yeah.
And somebody just hits him up and he's like, hey, I saw this kid playing. He was singing in somebody's backyard. You know, it's like a backyard party like we talked about with Van Halen where people just show up and just do stuff. And he goes, this guy could wail. I mean, he could belt. And as it turns out, that 16-year-old kid was a guy named Jack Russell.
Oh man, that's so crazy.
So they get together and Jack listens to Mark's band and he's like, these guys kind of suck. Would you like maybe me and you form our own band? And Mark Kendall's like, let's do it. And they drop Mark Kendall's band that he's in, and they form a band called Highway, which then becomes Live Wire. Then some other stuff happens, and we'll get into that in just a second.
Okay, so we got to talk about this. This is one of the most incredible stories of Great White.
Yeah.
In a history of a band that has terrible things happen.
This is one of the worst.
This is one of the worst. But it works out somehow.
It does work out. So Mark Kendall is talking, they're just playing clubs at this point, right?
Sure.
And he's like, I had jobs in potato chip factories. I was doing everything I could. He said, I was out painting the back of the AM PM signs, the convenience store grocer place, right? And he goes, and I look down and I see a newspaper that says, Witterman Jack Russell arrested for shooting. And he was like, Jack Russell, I know a guy named Jack Russell, and that's where he's from. And he's like, I better go call his mom. He calls his mom, and he's like, I saw this in the paper. Is this Jack? And she's like, yep, that's Jack.
So Jack Russell had problems with drugs and alcohol from the very beginning. He and Mark Kendall get together. Jack Russell is what, 16, 17, 18?
Yeah.
Not quite 18, I don't think.
Yeah, no, right? 17, yeah.
Okay. So at age 17, he and this idiot friend of his decide one of the ways they're going to get their hands on drugs, since they don't have money, is they're going to rob drug dealers.
Brilliant.
Right?
That's, that's so patently obvious.
Who has drugs?
Drug dealers.
And who doesn't call cops?
Drug dealers.
There you go, right? This is a brilliant plan.
But you have to take that next step of what do they do instead of call cops? Yeah, okay.
Right. All right, so Jack Russell and his buddy go to this well-known drug dealer's house, and it's like Rat Tail Jimmy. It's like nice. It's like a mansion, right?
Yeah. Is this the mansion built by Bugsy Siegel, by the way?
We've talked about it many times. But he's got a 22 pistol, okay? 22 caliber, which we've talked about. It's not a big bullet, but it is quite enough to kill somebody.
Yeah,
that's
sure,
right.
Yeah.
He's got the ski mask on. He breaks in, and the only person in there at the moment is the maid.
Okay.
She's Vietnamese. She doesn't speak great English. And he comes up with the ski mask on. At first, she thinks he's joking. Like, she thinks it's a joke.
Right.
He says, where's the Coke? Pointing the gun at her. Where's the Coke? Where's the Coke? And she's like, in the fridge. And she said, no Coke, Pepsi. And he said that at that moment, he knew it was just not going right. She runs off and hides like in a closet.
Okay.
And he's coming back and he's like banging on the door. And he's blackout high, out of his mind. Like, he doesn't really remember any of this. And this is what the court reporters have read back to him.
Right.
So he comes back and he's banging on the closet going, where's the Coke? Where's the Coke? Well, next thing he knows, he's wandering around. He's arrested by the police. They take him down and they're like, why did you shoot her? And he's like, shoot who? What are you talking about? They're like, you shot the maid. He's like, I didn't shoot the maid. Well, he shot the maid.
I shot the store clerk. I shot the store clerk?
Exactly. My cousin Vinny. So he fires through a solid oak door with a 22 bullet. It hits a St. Christopher's medallion that she's wearing and ricochets off of her heart.
Wow.
Like the medallion protects that bullet from killing her. He said at that moment, that medallion saved her life and his.
Yeah.
He gets 8 years in jail.
Sentenced to 8 years. Now, can you imagine? From Mark Kendall's perspective, like he's just formed this band, just gotten it together. It sounds great. They're doing great. They're moving up. And then, gotta start this crap all over again.
Exactly. This is not nobody. Jack Russell has an incredible voice.
Well, what are you going to do? He's in prison for 8 years.
8 years. Guess what? He's out in 11 months. Wikipedia says he served 18 months. I heard Jack Russell himself say 11 months because he knows it's for sure because he signed his record deal within the year. Within 12 months of shooting the maid, he had signed a record deal. 11 months later, he walks away.
Yeah, he did all of the programs because he was, I believe, just under 18 years old whenever this happened. He was able to take advantage of like the youthful offender programs that they have and build himself up all of these points, which knocked down the total of his sentence.
Yeah. So all the while this is happening, Mark Kendall's auditioning other singers for Great White. Actually, it wasn't Great White at the time.
No, it wasn't. So yeah, he has to rebuild. So he pulls Donnie Costa for bass.
Yep.
And Tony Richards for drums.
Yep.
And if you're a Wasp fan, those names are familiar because they both went on to play for Wasp after that.
Yep.
And he gets a singer named Butch Say that sounds like Rob Halford from Judas Priest, right?
Yep.
And then this female singer shows up. Her name's Lisa Baker. And they're like, oh, she's better. And they dump Butch Say, and Lisa Baker becomes their singer. And that's when they give themselves the name Dante Fox.
Kind of an interesting name.
Yeah.
You know, you get Brittany Fox a couple years later.
Yes, that's true. But what happens is Lisa Baker gets invited by another guy to join his band. The band's name is Exciter, and the guy who invited her to come join is a guy named George Lynch. And if you know who Dokken is and you know what Lynch Mob is, you know who George Lynch is.
George Lynch is one of the truly, I mean, we talk about great guitar players. He is an aficionado. I mean, this guy is unbelievable.
And then Jack Russell gets released.
Guess what, guys? I'm free.
And they're like, well, we already got a singer. And he's like, let me audition. If I don't make your audition, I'll go away. I'll leave you alone. You won't hear from me.
Right.
And so he comes in and auditions, and Mark Kendall's like, yeah, we need to have Jack sing for us.
Yeah.
And Costa is like, yeah, we need to have Jack Russell come sing for us. The guy that voted against him was Tony Richards. Tony Richards is like, I kind of like the way Butch sings. And they're like, dude, shut up. We're not going to just cover Judas Priest for the rest of our life.
Right.
Get that guy out of here and bring in Jack Russell. And so that's what happens. And the band comes back together and they begin performing as Dante's Fox. And when they're performing together, there's an interesting dynamic that they do, okay? They have basically a dark side and a light side on the stage. So Donnie Costa will dress like all in black. He puts like cheese graters on his guitar so that he can make his knuckles bleed while he's playing. Like he looks like a demon. And then Mark Kendall is on the other side of the stage and he's in like a white jumpsuit and he's got blonde, like almost white blonde hair and is playing a white guitar. And so it's this duality. And every time he would introduce him for a solo, Jack Russell would say, "Great White, people." And he would introduce Mark Kendall as Great White. But we got to move on. Song number 2.
Song number 2 is called Heart a Hunter.
That is an incredible hook.
Yeah, it is.
This is a great song.
This is a great song. If you like this song, I mean, you'll like the rest of the songs on this album. And they have a kind of a formula that works for them. It's crunchy guitars, it's passionate vocals, heavy drums. It's a lot of fun. I like it.
I would say that the chorus on this one, the hooky chorus, it kind of reminds me of the early days of Def Leppard. Like this is something that you'd get off of High and Dry or maybe Pyromania. That's just the way that the chorus, I don't know, sounds to me. Has got that kind of feel to it.
You could easily slide in Die Hard the Hunter.
Right. There you go. Okay. So they're now together as Dante's Fox. They're doing these white and black shows, right? And they're doing demos. And one of the bands that's there in Hollywood performing at the same time is a band called Dokken.
Yep.
And Don Dokken is friends with these guys.
Yeah.
And so he hits up this guy named Alan Niven to come watch them. He's like, you've got to hear these guys. They need management. Come listen to them play. Alan Niven goes and listens to them play and thinks, no, they're not for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Don's like, did you hear him play? And he's like, yeah, not for me. He's like, nah, go back and listen again. He goes and listens again, comes back again. He's like, no, they're not my guys. Now, Alan Niven is a very up and coming guy. I mean, he and his partners have signed Motley Crue. They've signed Berlin. Throwback to our Top Gun episode.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, this doesn't fit within our stuff. And Don Dokken is like, let me go to a show with you. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they go to the show together. And it's like the end of the show. Alan seems unmoved. And then they come out with an encore, right? And they do an encore of a Humble Pie song. And the Humble Pie song is called I Don't Need No Doctor.
Don't need no doctor, 'cause I know a sailor man.
That's
that
fantastic,
point,
man.
at that point, Alan Niven's like, okay, I can work with these guys.
Gosh, his voice, I mean, he sounds very Robert Plant and yet better than Robert Plant.
Well, I don't want to go there, but there
I
he has those moments. His voice is incredible. He's trying to think of a different name because he just doesn't like Dante's Fox. And Dante's Fox, the band drives by in a limo and Mark Kendall is sticking his head out of the window and is like, woo, and, just being a crazy, 20-something-year-old guy.
Right.
And one of their fans is standing next to Alan Niven and he's like, there goes Great White.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And he's like, that's it. That's what we named the band.
They do their first gig at the Troubadour in Hollywood, but here's the key. So I heard Jack Russell talk about this. Somehow or another, Alan Niven convinces the DJs at KMET and KLOS, which are rock stations in Los Angeles, to start playing songs off of their original EP. And he says that never happens. Like, you don't get an unsigned band who's dropping an EP and convince the rock radio station in Los Angeles to play your stuff.
Right. And in case you don't know who Alan Niven is, if that name is meaningless to you, not only did he manage Berlin, not only did he manage Motley Crue during their early days, he also managed this band that you might have heard of called Guns N' Roses. Just side story here. He was their manager up until just before the release of Use Your Illusions and the Use Your Illusion 1 and 2.
Go back and listen to those episodes.
Yeah. Axl Rose wanted him out. The rest of the band was like, no, Alan's great. Why do we get? And Alan's like, and then Axl's like, I'm not going to finish these albums until we get rid of Alan Niven.
Yeah.
What a dick.
I'm not singing another note until we dump our manager.
Sucks.
Yeah. So because of this, they get a little notoriety in LA, which I love this story.
Yeah.
Like, they feel like, oh man, we have made it because they played Six Flags Magic Mountain in front of 6,000 people.
That's a big deal, dude.
Six Flags Magic Mountain sounds like a fantastic gig to me.
Yeah.
And so that summer, they begin touring. They tour with Whitesnake. They tour with Judas Priest. They tour with Kiss, Dokken, Scorpions. That's kind of a who's who of early 80s bands right there.
Yeah. And so during this time, they had recorded an EP called Out of the Night. And after that Six Flags act, that's when EMI comes and says, hey, we want to sign you. And then, like you said, they start touring with those guys. Now, here's the story that I was going to blow your mind with.
Oh,
right?
yeah, okay.
Okay, so while they're doing their Judas Priest tour, they are without a drum riser. And they're like, hey, we need a drum riser for the show that we're doing. And the engineer is like, oh, hey, I know an old rocker here who's nearby. He's got a drum riser. He'll totally let us use it. So they go over to his house and they say to this guy, they're like, can we use your drum riser? He's like, yeah, can I come see the concert? And so they're like, yeah, sure. So he lends them their drum riser and then rides on their tour bus like a taxi over to the show and watches the show, right?
Right.
Now, this is 1982, 83, right? Okay. Do you know who the old rocker is?
No? Is this Ozzy? Who is this?
This guy named Ian Hunter.
Get out of town. That is a fantastic nugget. No way.
Yes. Yeah, like years before Once Bitten, Twice Shy has come out, they are hooking up with Ian Hunter, getting a drum riser, and he's coming out to their show. I mean, he's just an old has-been rocker at this point that they just are like, oh, hey, and make friends.
Okay. We're going to talk about, if you don't know why that's such a mind-blowing fact,
It's going to come up.
hang tight. Hold tight, okay?
Ian Hunter, remember the name.
Wow. That is a great nugget.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the next song. This song is called Highway Nights.
So you mentioned that they play with a formula. Could this be any more like Move It? I mean, once again, we start with the sound of a bus,
right?
leaving again, and then it's a gradual build blues song. It's great. I like the music, but I'm like, I feel like you should have spaced these a little more than just one song in the middle. We've got a bus intro sandwich with the first three songs on this album.
Right. And the drums to me sound very John Bonham. I mean, I think more Led Zeppelin in this one.
This is their on-the-road song. Like every band has to have their on-the-road song. This is the, Highway Nights, Red Tail Lights, Lead My
Every band has this song,
Love
right?
Light On, yeah.
By the way, do you remember the early name for the band?
Highway.
Okay, so let's move on to the next song. This song is called The Angel Song.
Fallen angel, ripped and bruised,
of these songs are obviously minor chord songs, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like Save All Your Love, I'm feeling E minor. The Angel song, I'm feeling A minor. It's like, yes, this is a minor key, sad power ballad, but now we got piano instead of the cool guitar, but I love it. I love it.
It's the power ballad on this album that makes me want to weep because it's so good. This was the second single. This reached number 30 on the Hot 100, which, again, it deserved better in 89.
Yeah.
But this song is about innocence, broken dreams, disappointment, death. In fact, I would say that lyrically, it's very similar to Fly to the Angels by Slaughter, which,
right,
is about death. Every band in the 80s, to have a successful album, you had to have a really good power ballad to go along with your rockers.
Yeah.
This is it.
Streets are hard, they're mean and scarred, where only fools find gold. Fly, lonely angel.
So this one, writing credits include Mark Kendall and Alan Niven.
Yeah.
Mark Kendall, it was neat to watch him be interviewed, because he's always this guy that's kind of struck me as an aloof kind of, untouchable guy. But then when I've seen his interviews, he's the most friendly, just does tons of interviews, very cordial, very well-spoken, great, just very friendly guy, great telling his story, all of this stuff. So it was great to see him talk. But he mentioned when the question came up about Alan Niven writing some of their songs, he was like, yeah, like we all have our weaknesses. I have my weaknesses. And Jack at that point was not strong on coming up with lyrics for the song. Incredible voice, could do whatever you wanted him to with the lyrics you gave him. He just wasn't great about coming up with words. And so Alan just kind of came in, and it was something where it would be suggestions at first, and then it was, hey, I wrote these lyrics for you. What do you think? And he said, the whole band would be involved in the writing process, and everybody's suggestions were taken and considered. But Alan really kind of stepped in to become a lyric writer for them on this album, more so than he had been previously.
By the way, that piano is played by band member Michael Lardy.
Okay.
I've got a quote from him, a stinging quote
that
we'll talk about later.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Mystery.
They're making beautiful music here. Not so much later.
There are things that happen with rock bands from time to time. Yeah.
I'm Spiking the Football. This is the best song on the album.
Ooh. Okay.
I love me some power ballad.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting that you say that, because I hollered at Kevin Davis before this episode, because he and I had talked about the Cult, and he said, he'd seen the Cult live like several times. I don't remember how many times it was, but like 3 at least.
Okay.
So today I was like, hey, what do you think about Great White? The band. And he said, love it. Favorite song, Missed a Bone. Nasty blues song.
It's bluesy.
Nasty. I love it. Yeah, this is a great one. And, subtle suggestions of 80s bands.
I thought this was a single because I've heard a lot of radio play from this one.
Yeah.
By the way, I talked to Chris Webber,
Yeah.
Patreon member Chris Webber, today on the phone.
Yep.
And was asking him if he had any memories of Great White. And he said he had a friend who was at a music festival in New Orleans. He called it Howling Wolf, which I'm not familiar with.
Right.
But his buddy was just sitting there, looked over and did a double take, and there's Jack Russell of Great White.
And when she's in the mood, when she needs a loving groove, when she wants it rude, she grooves with Mr. Bone. She's in the mood.
Was watching a band perform. And he walked over to him. He's like, hi, are you Jack Russell? He's like, yeah, good to meet you. They shook hands, talked for a few minutes.
That's awesome.
Just a man among the people.
Well, it's funny that you say that. So I asked Kevin, did you ever see them live? Because he had mentioned seeing the Cult live.
Uh-huh.
And he said, I saw Jack Russell's Great White about 5 years ago, and they were very good. And then he said, I saw him in the bathroom before the show. And he said, he looked rough, but he sounded great.
Yeah.
Which is in opposition to his report on the Cult, which we'll talk about when we get to that episode.
Interesting.
Yeah.
By the way,
Patreon member Kevin Davis.
Patreon, remember, we love you guys. I listened to a podcast where Eddie Trunk was interviewing Jack Russell. And he's done all these terrible things to his body, and his health has been terribly poor at times. He's had to use a cane, but he's never lost that unbelievable voice,
Yeah.
despite mistreating it with drugs, alcohol, cigarettes.
Well, you were the one that told me the story about his doctor telling him in no uncertain terms what would happen if he had another drink, right?
Yes, and I'll tell you that story here in just a few minutes.
Okay.
All right, hit stop on your tape player, kick it out, flip it over. Side 2, this song's called Baby's on Fire.
Got to go down because I need a distraction. I've been trying it on with everyone in sight. She's been waiting so long for me to come tonight. Another bit of subtle suggestion in the lyrics by a hard rock band of the 80s.
That's it. So, I mean, this is the formula, right? It's crunchy guitars, it's pounding drums, it's funky blues.
About a long intro. I mean, you're a full minute and nearly 15 seconds into the song before you realize, oh, this is not just a guitar solo.
Right.
This song does have lyrics, and I like it. It's fine.
Right.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Now, I don't want to be too clever with this, but based on the title of this song, Baby's on Fire,
Yeah.
I think we need to talk about February 20th, 2003.
Yeah, what you're referring to was a fire at the station, which was a big club in Rhode Island. And yeah, I mean, it's an incredible event because that night, we need to say the band split up in 2001. Jack Russell's addiction had gotten too much of, his benders went on too long. The band couldn't depend on him. Now, sadly, they just kind of quit returning his phone calls. He was kind of irritated at that. He's like, I understand. He goes, if somebody in my band now was behaving like that, I would fire them. That's what I would do. I would fire them. And he goes, but they didn't fire me. They just quit talking to me.
Right.
And that's not the thing that, somebody you've been friends with and toured with and worked with for the last 15 years should be doing. And I mean, it's at 2001, we're closer to 20 at that point.
Yeah.
But
let's back it up just a step from there.
yeah,
In 1992, during the making of Psycho City,
yeah,
Jack and Mark both became clean and sober
yeah,
with the help of Steven Tyler,
yep,
right?
right, yeah,
They quit drinking, quit smoking. They got fit. They worked out, right?
yeah.
And then
Still ugly though. Sorry guys. I pointed out to Jason, I'm like, I think another reason this doesn't fall into the hairband scenario is these guys are not pretty musicians, right? They got some interesting look about them, not what I would describe as a pretty boy act.
that's right. So after 8 years of being clean and sober,
Yeah.
in the year 2000, they both Jack and Mark fell off the wagon.
Uh-huh.
Jack said he went from friendly drinking to freebasing like that.
Wow.
He said he cannot be trusted. He is a full-blown alcoholic, drug addict, and can't be around it at all ever.
Right.
And so when the band broke up in 2001, Mark got clean and sober again and could not be around a drug addict.
The thing is that when they split up, as weird as that was, the question was who gets to keep being Great White, right? I mean, because to hear Jack Russell say it, he was like, I didn't get fired, I fired everybody else. And so what if, the litigation or whatever it was that they had to get through things, it then became Jack Russell's Great White, and it was just him singing with an entirely different band for quite a while. And then, as you said, we have this kind of weird thing that happens the night that they play at the station in Rhode Island, where they don't bill themselves as Jack Russell's Great White. They just bill themselves as Great White.
Yeah. So in 2002, Jack Russell reached out to Mark Kendall and said, hey, man, it's been a while. What do you think? You want to try and do this thing again? So the two of them got together with a couple of dudes, different guys that, were not in the original band.
Right.
And so Mark Kendall joined him on this tour. And then in February of 2003, they're playing this local club in Rhode Island
Called the station.
called the Station.
Yep.
The Station nightclub. And they set fire to a pyrotechnic as the concert's starting.
Yeah, it was their tour manager. They were just opening the show. Their opening song was Desert Moon.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I don't know what goes on in people's heads on why they decide things were a good idea, but the guy's name was Daniel the Shell.
Yep.
And he ignited flammable acoustic foam on both sides and the top center of the drummer's alcove at the back of the stage.
All right, so I heard the story on why that stuff was there. This is kind of an interesting story in itself. So there had been a lot of noise complaints around this club. And so they put all this foam on the walls to keep the sound from going out and disturbing people in the neighborhood.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, that foam was extremely flammable. And when you light a giant pyrotechnic next to something super flammable, you have 230 people injured and 100 people killed.
Yeah, it was, the design of the club was bad. The club was very old, like 100 years old. I mean, it's just alcohol-soaked wood. The design of the club, the entrance has a hallway, like you're immediately in a hallway. So when the fire started, and it was fast, one of the owners was there, and he was near the entrance, and so he immediately got out. But he was having to scream at people to get out of the way of the door so that other people could get out because the fire was coming so quickly. The bouncer who was there, I mean, this was a guy who was beloved in the community. He had actually been on Letterman multiple times. I think the Stupid Human Tricks. Okay. He just had he had an operation at some point in his life that gave him it was a operation for something that a side effect was he could balance anything on his chin. Like he put a full-size canoe on his chin and balance it, or a human being on a stand and balance it. So he would be on Letterman on these Stupid Human Tricks. He's working as a bouncer at this club, and you watch the documentary on this, and his brothers, he's saying in 90 seconds, he went in and out of that club 9 times, grabbing people and bringing them out. And the interviewer's like, how do you know it was 9 times? And the guy says, because I've had 9 families come and tell me, your brother saved my life, saved my son's life, saved my daughter, wife, whoever's life. So this amazing guy goes back in and out so many times that trying to save people, that on time number 10, he doesn't make it out.
You know who else was killed was one of the guitarists in the band.
Yeah.
His name was Ty Longley.
Yeah.
Young guy, married. She was pregnant.
Yeah.
3 months pregnant. And he knew somebody in the crowd and was trying to protect them.
Yeah. There was an exit at the back of the stage, and that the rest of the band goes out that back exit.
They're just like, whoop. Yep.
Yeah. But because he had a friend in the crowd, he was like, I don't want to leave my buddy behind, right? You know, how would you feel if you did exit through the easy exit and then your buddy dies? So it makes sense. But you were telling me he took his guitar with him.
He used his guitar to break windows to get people out. And we looked at, there's a great diagram of the picture of it. When you and I were looking at it, we're like, well, there's a giant bottleneck. You just can't get out fast enough.
No.
It was the deadliest fireworks accident in U.S. history and the second deadliest nightclub incident.
The owners of the club were charged criminally with this. I think they were ultimately acquitted. And listening to him talk, I felt bad for him. I mean, they were guys who just were, they made an investment in a club.
Right.
They were actually trying to sell it. Like it was on the market.
Sheesh. Well, and Daniel, the tour manager, he lights the pyrotechnic. He gets 15 years. He serves 4. You know why he got out or why he was paroled so quickly?
Why?
Because family members went to bat for him. Like people who lost members of their family in the fire. They were like, it's not this guy's fault. He doesn't need to rot in jail forever.
Wow.
He's paid his price. Let's get him out.
Wow.
I hate to bring the podcast down, but you cannot talk about the history of Great White without discussing this incredible fire.
Yeah, it was a monumental event in their history for sure. I feel like we need to move on. Let's go back to happier times. Let's go move on to our next song that's not Babies on Fire.
Let's go to the House of Broken Love.
Okay, I'm going to say that this is my favorite song on this album.
I'm not surprised that you love it.
And if it's not also David Wright's favorite song, I'll eat my hat.
Okay.
This is so Blue Jean Blues by ZZ Top. Like it's just that slow, just my heart is ripped in half. The blues of the blues, like truly sad blues, which is appropriate for how the song came to be. You know this story?
So Mark Kendall and Jack Russell had just recently gone through these terrible breakups.
Yeah, divorce for Jack Russell.
Divorce, his first divorce, and they're sitting there like looking pitiful on the amps, waiting to begin practice or whatever, like bummed out. And Alan Niven comes in, is like, "What is this? The House of Broken Love?"
I'm dealing with the devil with no help from above. I'm sleeping with the devil in this house of broken love.
Which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were just in the dumps going through breakups.
How many times have you heard somebody say something and you're like, that'd be a good song title?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I could just imagine it. House of Broken Love. House of Broken Love. Oh, I like that.
Got
Let's see
something.
what we could do with that.
That's it.
Ah,
At least I got something out of this divorce. This was the third single, released January of 1990, that reached number 83 on the Hot 100.
83 is a travesty
Yep.
again. That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, I got something for you on this one.
Okay.
The B-side on this one. Do you know what the B-side is?
B-side on this one was Bitches and Other Women.
Okay.
And then the live version of Red House, which is an old Jimi Hendrix staple song.
So this is like a medley cover of Bitch by the Rolling Stones.
Okay.
It's Only Rock and Roll by the Rolling Stones. And Women by Foreigner.
okay.
So Bitches and Other Women.
Gotcha. Nice. So we were talking before about, borrowing Ian Hunter's drum riser and him coming to the concert after the Judas Priest concert. Now, they were with EMI at that point. They had done all these tours. We talked about it, Kiss, Dokken, Judas Priest, White Snake.
Yeah.
Back when White Snake still had Cozy Powell as a drummer. Yeah.
Slide it in.
There you go. But when they get back home, they hadn't had any significant radio hits. And EMI is like, listen, guys, we're not really going to promote this anymore. And they're like, they've got a multi-record deal with them, but if you don't get promotion, it's meaningless, right?
That's right.
And so they parted ways amicably, ended their contract, but that meant that in 1985, they were an unsigned band again.
Oh, wow.
And so they literally, they had T-shirts printed up that said "Survive 85." Like Alan Niven's talking to him. He's like, "Do you want to fight?" He's talking to Mark Kendall. He's like, "Do you want to fight or do you want to give up?" And Mark Kendall tells him about when he was 17 years old, walking on the beach. I said to myself, I am either going to make it as a guitarist or I am going to be a bum. And those are my only two options. And so I want to fight. And so through 85, they're trying to live, but they're really going back to the club scene. And then a magical thing happens. There's a song that they have called "On Your Knees."
Okay.
And there's this group of concerned parents that get together called the PMRC.
Yeah, I remember them.
Yeah, well, as it turns
Filthy
out,
15?
the Filthy 15 includes a great white song.
What?
Called "On Your Knees." And it's a juvenile, like it sounds, if you were an uptight Tipper Gore, it sounds like a rape song, but it's really just a, rough love kind of song, right?
Sure.
And so they get notoriety, even though they're an unsigned band, they get the notoriety of being on the Filthy 15 with this song "On Your Knees." And so they're thinking, we can do this. We just have to get another album, right? But they don't have a record label to cover the cost of their album. So they're talking to the engineer, and their engineer is like, I got a friend or a cousin or something like that named Fred, who's, he's looking to back a band on something. And so they borrow $15,000 from Fred, whoever Fred is, right?
Let's go, Fred.
They borrow $15,000 for him, and they produce their own album called "Shot in the Dark." So on "Shot in the Dark," they have this song called "Face the Day." Okay. Here's what "Face the Day" sounds like. So just like they did before, they managed to get this song played on a few radio stations, and it actually becomes a kind of a successful song in Texas and Arizona, and ends up being the second most requested song on KLOS.
That big rock station in Los Angeles.
Exactly. So what happens? Capitol Records calls them up. Now, Capitol Records is the parent company of EMI that had just screwed them over months ago.
Oh, wow.
And Capitol Records is like, hey, we like what you're doing out there. How about we sign you? And they're like, we did it. Like, they managed to survive 85. They end up signing with Capitol Records. They go on the road with Dokken for like 5 shows. And one other thing that happens in 1985, Once Bitten gets released.
87.
No, 85.
What?
It was a movie.
Jim Carrey and Lauren Hutton.
Jim Carrey and Lauren Hutton are in the movie Once Bitten in 1985. And are you ready for this? Do you remember what Jim Carrey's character's name is in that movie?
No, I don't.
His name is Mark Kendall.
It is. You're exactly right.
What?
Stop. That is mind-blowing. You're not going to get that anywhere else but the Surely Can't Be Serious podcast.
Yeah.
Great job, Dee.
Yeah. So then, of course, they release Once Bitten in 87. And then, of course, we get, Twice Shy in 89.
Awesome.
Second to last song on the album, She Only.
So many years to go by.
Well, once again, 12-string guitar, acoustic guitar, playing some minor chords, power ballad song. This is a good one.
It's good.
It's acceptable. The melody, it gives me kind of this, Fievel Goes West, Don Bluth kind of song somebody's singing as they're staring at the moon kind of vibe about them, but it's not bad. I enjoy it.
It's not bad. It's good. In the movie Twins, where you got Kelly Preston and her kind of not the best looking sister.
Yes.
Right? So Save All Your Love is Kelly Preston. And then this one's kind of the, not as cute sister.
Right.
Go back to our Twins episode.
Oh my goodness. That's great. Yeah. So again, I love the sound of Jack Russell's voice with the 12-string guitar. And we talked like the voice is the thing that stuck with him. Right. Didn't you tell me that he didn't even have a house now?
Yeah, he lives on a boat.
He lives on a boat.
Which we both agreed, it sounds kind of fitting for this kind of old rocker,
Yeah, sure. I mean, why worry about property taxes?
Exactly. Right? Yeah, he says he just lives on this boat and he fishes.
Yeah, he likes to go
in the
fishing.
LA Bay.
Hey, it turns out he does love sharks. I mean, if this guy hasn't gone shark fishing on his houseboat, there's something wrong with the world,
something wrong,
right?
That's right. I told you that in 2000 he relapsed. Both he and Mark Kendall relapsed.
Yeah.
And he went instantly to free racing, cocaine, and he got down to 137 pounds.
Ouch.
Right? Had to use a cane. He went into a coma. His liver shut down.
Yeah.
And while he was in this coma, doctor told his wife, I don't think he's going to make it. Right? You need to prepare yourself. He's not going to live. Okay.
Wow.
Well, when he did, he told her, if he takes another drink, he dies. Like, this is not, okay, he needs to dial it back. No, he needs to cut it out or else. And he said that was exactly what he needed to have because he is just a raging alcoholic. And he used that word, raging alcoholic. He said, I just cannot handle it. And so I have to be abstinent. I mentioned earlier that Marco Lardi, who was in the band with him, kind of made a cutting comment.
Yeah.
In the 2010s, when he's like full-on drug addict stage, they all went to Janie Lane's funeral, which Janie Lane died of alcohol poisoning.
Right.
He married Bobby Brown. Janie Lane was the lead singer for Warrant.
Right. Yes.
Flashback to our best of 89, where you picked a song and I picked a song, and they weren't the same.
Just bleep yourself there.
But, he's a full-on raging drug addict at this moment, and he's in the bathroom. And he hears his former bandmate say, in reference to Jack Russell, why doesn't that guy just die already?
Wow.
He said that comment hurt him really bad.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't mind that they didn't want to be in a band with me, but that one really hurt.
Yeah. Well, and Lauren Black, who was their bassist, he died as well from his drug addiction. So it's just a tragic, it's a rough industry to get in the 80s and make it out alive.
Yeah. Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah. So Once Bitten gets certified platinum by April of 88. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they go out on a year-long tour, and they are touring with TNT, David Lee Roth, Whitesnake, probably the new version at this time, the Monsters of Rock tour, Twisted Sister, and importantly, a band mentioned before, in case you don't remember, their name is Guns N' Roses.
Huh.
And that's important because the guitarist, not the lead guitarist, but the rhythm guitarist for Guns N' Roses, a guy named Izzy Stradlin, says to Alan Niven one day, hey, these guys have this album, Once Bitten. Do you know this song by Ian Hunter? It's like, no. Let me play it for you. It's a song called Once Bitten, Twice Shy.
Well, the time's getting hard for you, little girl. I'm a humming and a strumming all over God's world. You don't remember.
So Alan Niven brings this to the band, and they're like, yeah, okay, sure, why not?
Right.
You know, whatever.
What?
This is fun. And so in case you don't know, Ian Hunter is the guy who used to be the singer for Mott the Hoople back in the 70s.
Yeah, yeah.
And he had split with them in his first album out that he called Ian Hunter. He had this song called Once Bitten, Twice Shy on it. It was a minor hit. I hit number 14 in the UK. Never showed up in the US at all. Just this kind of minor thing that because Izzy Stradlin, the rhythm guitarist for Guns N' Roses, is a well-versed musician, he happened to know about it. And that's how we get to the song that we're about to play for you now.
And roll loves until you caught your sister with the guys from the room. Halfway home in the parking lot, by the look in her eye, she was giving what she got. Said, my, I'm once bitten, twice shy, babe. My, I'm once bitten, twice shy, baby.
This song is so awesome, and it just ruled the summer of 1989.
This is a fantastic song. I don't care that it was popular. I still love it. The piano on this, the funk and fun, and they're just having a great time playing this song because they have no idea that they are making a worldwide mega hit song that will blast the airwaves for the next 6 months.
That's it. They thought it would be fun to do, but they didn't really think it was going to be a hit.
No.
This song goes all the way to number 5 on the Hot 100.
Okay, before you tell me what the 4 are that beat it out, 'cause
Yes.
I know that you
I've
have
got it, yes.
They didn't even want this as the single off the album.
What?
The band didn't even. They were there. It's like, really? You want this
The
one?
cover?
Yeah, no. The record guys came in and they're like, yes, this is it. This is the obvious single off of the. And they're like, really? And Alan Niven's like, guys, how do you not know that this is? And they're like, okay, they would have picked another song.
Oh, this is so fun. I can tell you stories. Me and Patreon member Chris Bauer, a.k.a. Bomber, we would thump this song as we were going to school, going to football practice, going all over the place.
Yeah.
And in fact, he had the single of Once Bitten, Twice Shy, which the B-side has a bonus song that we're going to talk about once we get done with this one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Now then, the Hot 100.
You're going to give me the 4 songs.
The 4 songs
That beat this one out.
beat this one out.
Yeah.
Okay?
Maybe not the best way to put that. The 4 songs that topped this one on the charts.
Yes. And I told you, this is a kind of a hodge. 1989, I'm a big proponent of 89, but the musical landscape in 89 was weird because hair metal was there, but it was changing. You had kind of the rise of sort of R&B, and then you had sort of rap, and it was just a kind of a hodgepodge. So number 4, you have So Alive by Love and Rockets.
That's a big one.
Yep.
Well, I feel like we should do a Patreon episode on that one.
It's a great
That's
song.
a great one.
Big
yeah.
one. Number 3 is Bat Dance by Prince.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe the worst number 1 song of the 80s. I love it because all it is just quoting Batman stuff, but
Yeah.
it's just junk, you know?
It is a bit junky but fun, yes.
Number 2 is On Our Own by Bobby Brown, the Ghostbusters 2 song.
Wow.
And then number 1 is Right Here Waiting by Richard Marx, the song about Cynthia Rhodes.
Throw back to our other Patreon episode where we can't discuss it because there's a secret.
It's a secret. That's it.
Yes. By the way, guys, if you want to join our Patreon family, we have some of our most fun episodes. We cover one-hit wonders and other novelty songs on there, and sometimes it's like a mystery song. You have to guess what the song is. But if you guys are interested in doing that, go to patreon.com/ I got called out on Facebook, and God bless you, sir, for letting me know my mistake.
Backslash.
It's not backslash.
Yeah.
There is no backslash in a URL. / Shirley Podcast. And you can become a Patreon member where you will hear all of our super secret episodes that we share with our Patreon family. Lots of very fun stuff on that.
Okay, I got a nugget for you on Once Bitten, Twice Shy, D.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So the music video is directed by our man Nigel Dick.
Oh, Nigel Dick.
Remember
back
Nigel
again.
Dick?
Yes, I do.
So, and it was huge on MTV, right? This is on all the time.
Yeah.
We talked about Little Miss Bobby Brown,
Yes.
who later went on to become the Cherry Pie Girl. She's on the cover of this album.
Later went on to become the Mrs.
Miss
Janie
Lane.
Yeah.
Yep. She's also in the video. You can see her.
Mm-hmm.
She's 19 or 20. And, you know, very beautiful.
Yes.
But there are a lot of lady friends from the band there, right?
Yeah. It's just a little big happy family there.
And, you know, the band told me they were the best lick in town. I can't say that. I'm not saying that. I got to pull that.
No, you don't. Bleep yourself if you want to.
Boy. Okay. But anyway, it's a great video. All it is they're in a warehouse and just kind of jamming out
Hanging
with
out,
some pretty
singing a
girls
song
next.
with
Yeah.
Hot chicks. Yeah.
That's it. Fun video, fun song. Love it.
Absolutely. So Ian Hunter, the same guy that had just years before lent them the drum riser and used their bus as a taxi to get to the show. His song is now their biggest hit. And as it turns out, he gets money from that. He don't get just a little bit of money. Like this song has probably made him $1 million. Like it's crazy. But even back then, he starts getting checks in the mail. I told you he was kind of this washed up at this point. He puts a band back together. They start touring. He starts playing Once Bitten, Twice Shy.
Why
and
not?
People come up to him after the show and go, "Why are you covering a Great White song?" Because I love them.
Right. And they gave me $1 million.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, Dee, so we've given plenty of warnings about illegal drugs and how they're terrible for your health and how they they did kill one of the guys in this band and almost killed everybody else.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, this song is so fun. We've got to cover 2 bonus songs.
So if you had the extended version of this album, if you got it later on, this song made it on Wasted Rock Ranger and another song called Slow Ride, which you would say best 2 songs on the album.
I mean, it's in the conversation. I love both of these songs.
Okay, so before we hit Wasted Rock Ranger, because that's the one we're going to talk about, I just want to get a sample of Slow Ride for people who may not have heard it.
Well, the screen was moving slow. I had nowhere to go. I was high and dry. Never been so low.
So when you told me about Wasted Rock Ranger, I found the extended edition. I saw a Slow Ride on here. I'm like, oh, they did a Foghat cover. No, that is not.
No.
That's not that Slow Ride. This is a different Slow Ride.
I love this song. I think it's great.
You said you thought it. I mean, if it was on the original album, you said it would have been one of the top 3 songs.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
but the fun one, the one we're here that we got to talk about is Wasted Rock Ranger. Here we go.
Well, I'm a wasted rock ranger. I live a life of danger. On the road to find a higher high. I don't need no one's affection. All I need is my injection. Out of tuneless Apollo, get me by.
I fucking love this. This is Great White singing country, man. This is like on Lies when they go, I used to love her, but I had to kill her. It's that fun little, we're just being crazy and wildly inappropriate. And who's this trucker that we're listening to at the beginning? Does he have any idea that they recorded him making some comment to some poor truck stop
Probably
cashier?
not. No way. I love this song. It's so fun, man. And he's talking about hanging out with Jimmy and his friends, you know?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So he's talking about the fun of drug addiction.
Right.
Hey, you're a wasted rock ranger. You'll live a life of danger. Sing this song and follow it to the end. When you reach number 1, you can overdose for fun and go in.
Which is really, I mean, the guy went to prison for shooting somebody in a drug robbery. I mean, I don't know how he thinks it's okay. And then, of course, loses his place in one of these bands because of his... Whatever, that's fine. But yes, he's singing about how fun drug addiction is, that he wouldn't be working for some effed up slob. He left his wife and his family so that he could go be a rock singer. If you're a wasted rock ranger, you'll live a life of danger. Sing this song and follow it till the end. When you reach number 1, you can overdose for fun and go and visit Jimmy and his friends.
Love it, man. It's so fun.
That is some messed up stuff, but I love it.
Yes. I told you, I said, there's no way we can cover this album without talking about this song.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. We dropped the teaser at the beginning talking about Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. I got to tell you, I remember the moment sitting in front of the TV and seeing them play Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You. I was listening to Led Zeppelin by that point. I don't think that I had come to this song yet. And this is one of their earlier songs. Zeppelin's earlier songs, right? Maybe off the first album.
I think it's off the
very first album. Yeah, 69. Led Zeppelin. Second song in the album, if I remember correctly, maybe. Anyway, they play this song, and I'm floored at how good it is. And as I said, I went to the guitar teacher I had at that time, and I'm like, hey, have you heard this Great White song? And he's like, well, yeah, but it's a Led Zeppelin song. And I'm like, okay, show me how to do this. And I was not good enough at that point to figure out how to do it. And then when I listened to the Led Zeppelin version, I hate to say this, I still love the Led Zeppelin version. I was a little disappointed. And I said this to you, I'm like, this is one of the greatest covers of all time. And your words were,
It's better.
it is. I hate to say it because I love Led Zeppelin, but they did such an incredible job on this song that I would say it's better than the original. And it is a true to the original song. They haven't like redone it. This is a very true to the original song, and they did it better than the original.
Summer comes along.
Now, after I told you this, you told me a story that blew my freaking mind.
Okay. So this was played on MTV's second Unplugged television show. This is May 6, 1990.
Second.
The second one. You know, the
I mean,
first one
everybody
was?
knows Unplugged, right?
Yeah.
So this is the second show. Yeah, no, what was the first show?
The first one was The Squeeze.
Excuse me?
Right?
What?
Yeah, The Squeeze.
Oh,
was
my gosh.
the first MTV Unplugged. Great White was the second.
I haven't seen The Squeeze, but I have to think that afterwards they were like, well, we got another band to come and do this. I don't know if this Unplugged thing is really going to work out. But, man.
Well, I would argue that Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You is what launched MTV Unplugged, right?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. So here's the deal.
Yeah.
Jack Russell and Mark Kendall are riding in the car together on the way to this gig, and they're like, you know what? We should do this Led Zeppelin song. And they just kind of popped in a tape, you know, the old days, you know, cassette play, and they're working it out on the way over.
They figured out the song on the way to the Unplugged show.
They listened to it in the car, and they were like, yeah, we should totally do this. They go backstage, and they're like, okay, they're re-listening to it, and they're like, oh, yeah, don't forget that part. Oh, you hear how that guitar kind of does that? And they kind of work it out.
I mean, guys, keep in mind, this is the full band.
Yeah.
This is guitarist, bass, rhythm guitarist that is also, I mean, if you listen, they're playing together. They are picking the notes together. Mark Kendall and whoever they had as their rhythm guitarist at that point, and they nailed it.
They nailed it.
I said, don't you hear it calling me the way you used to do? Oh.
And in fact, this is the deal. I mean, you and I agree. This gives us chills.
Yeah.
Jack Russell said the one in rehearsal, the one that they did prior to this one, was even better.
Yeah, you said that they did one run through for the audience, and then they did it live on the show, recording, and you said that the first one was even better than this one?
That's what he said. Said it still gives him chills.
Wow. Well, okay, fantastic. We have finished up with an incredible band, so many incredible stories, and an incredible album. But we're matching it up against something that is truly worthy. So you guys come back. Next week, we are going to be talking about The Cult and Sonic Temple. I will be telling you about my virgin experience with this album because I had never listened to a single Cult song before I heard this album. And I'm excited to talk about it. And we will be joined by one of our oldest Patreon member, Mr. James Buckley, back again I can't wait to talk about this album.
We'll see you back here next week. All right. Now, just for pure reactionary purposes, we've talked about how you're not necessarily a Great White fan. You're kind of learning their stuff. I jumped in 1987 with Once Bitten. And I told you there's a song on there called Save All Your Love. It's one of their big songs. And I just want you to play it because I think you're going to love it. Can we just get a live reaction from you on this one?
Yes. This will be my live reaction to this song.
Okay.
I already love it.
It builds. It's a builder.
It's my new favorite Great White song.
It's fantastic.
It's so good. I mean, the acoustic songs with the guys with the rockin', like I love When the Children Cry. I love those, the power ballad songs, and that is fantastic.
It
Fantastic.
is amazing. Yeah.
I'm sitting here and I like while it's going, I'm typing into the computer going, what? How did I miss this song? Well, okay, so here's the answer I came up with. It spent 12 weeks on the Hot 100, peaking out at number 57.
Oh,
That's a travesty. And that was in February of 88, when any song like that should have been topping the charts. I don't know how that flew under the radar like that. That's crazy.
stupid George Michael, which we love, but anyway, I just knew you would love that song, being the guitar player and the soulful lyrics and the voice.
It's fantastic. That's the type of song I want to hear Jack Russell singing more than any other song.